In this video, we're going to be talking all about the Flex protocol that the Power City team just dropped live on the Pulse Chain mainnet, where you can lock up your Hex as collateral and now mint yourself some Hex DC, Hex dollar coin. So let me bring up the man of the moment, no other than my partner in crime and one of the founders of Power City, Mr. Just Ask Jesse in the house.
How you doing, y'all?
Good to see you, man. I think a lot of people out there are surprised and happy. What have we just seen happen on the Pulse Chain mainnet?
So now you can lend against your Hex. You can mint some Hex dollar coins, and you don't have to sell your Hex if you don't want to. What we noticed was there was about 51 or so % of Hexes held liquid, and over time there's like less and less stakers, right? And all that equates to some sell pressure. People are waiting for these micro pumps so they can then turn around and dump it. And I think the biggest thing Hex needs for mass adoption is utility. Besides just locking it up for more, which is good, right? I've heard people say phrases like save yourself from yourself, stake it till you make it, right? But as those stakes come undue, what are you going to do with that Hex, right? You're going to want to sell some of it. You're going to want to sell that yield. So what this protocol allows you to do then is, instead of doing that, you can earn further yield on it. You can mint some stable coins. You can put those in the stability pool. You can earn some Flex tokens. Flex tokens, when they're staked, will earn you fees in the form of Hex and Hex dollar coins. So anytime somebody mints themselves some new stable coins, that's called Hex DC. Some of those Hex DC coins go to the stakers, right? They collect it. So the stakers of Flex collect those. And in 2 weeks' time, after redemptions start, the redemption fees come in the form of Hex. So whenever somebody wants to redeem a Hex dollar coin for $8 worth of Hex, they're going to pay a fee to do that. And the stakers of Flex collect that, right? So those stakers collect both Hex, which people like, and Hex dollar coin, which you can turn into whatever you'd like. We have a number of incentivized pools. These pools run for 369 days, okay? So for people who would like to earn some trading fees, as well as an emission of Flex tokens, which again you can stake for Hex dollar coin and for some Hex. All you got to do is go to PulseX. Liquidity provide Hex to Hex DC or Flex token to Hex. And we kind of bootstrapped into PulseX Earn. So if you're familiar with these Liquidity forks, our Earn protocol has a pool, PulseX Earn, right? If you were to stake your PulseX Earn LP tokens over here in Flex protocol, you can get an emission of Flex tokens, right? So the whole 60-day thing was kind of short. We thought, how do we make this longer so people can continue to get incentives and we could really grow the liquidity pools? We said, we got to bootstrap into this. Let's give some Flex tokens out to those people who would like to stake their PulseX Earn LP tokens. They just have to stake them directly into Flex protocol. So we bootstrapped into there. In time, you'll see other pools pop up over in other dexes, such as PHUX, which has its own incentives. But again, these incentives will run for 369 days.
That's awesome, man. Before we let's come back to that in a second. Let's go back to the actual home, to the dashboard, to the homepage of the Flex protocol. If anyone's familiar with the Earn protocol, it looks pretty similar, right?
Yeah, it looks almost the same. The color schemes are different. Of course, the icons, the logos are different. The tickers are different, right? But the layouts are identical.
And that's because it's another fork of Liquidity, like liquid loans, like the Earn protocol, the way you can lock up your ETH on Ethereum. Same code, obviously tweaked for Pulse Chain, but you can now use your liquid Hex as collateral. So on the dashboard page, we can see how to open a vault. how to become a stability pool provider, how to become a stability provider, and also how to stake. Maybe we could just talk through these functions quickly, just for anyone who's seeing this for the first time.
Yep. So in the vault area, the minimum debt size, the minimum loan size is 500 hex dollar coins. Okay. So that's the smallest loan you can take. You're going to set your collateral health. So you need to bring more than $500 worth of hex into the protocol. Maybe you want to bring 600, 700, 1,000. 1,000 would put you at 200% collateral health. Right. But you're going to put some hex into a vault and you're going to mint some stable coins. You're locking up your hex. All right. Now you have some hex dollar coins. You can do what you want with those. That's a loan. Go treat it like a loan. Go swap it like value to like value and send it to Coinbase if you'd like. Maybe there's tax advantages to doing that since you didn't sell. Or take those hex dollar coins and place them into the stability pool. The stability pool is to absorb any liquidations that might happen. And your incentive, which won't happen all the time. If you notice in Earn protocol, there's barely been any liquidations. People's collateral health is pretty safe. There's been a handful, and it looks like those people put themselves there on purpose for one reason or another, there's reasons to do that, but we're not going to talk about that today. But the incentive for placing your Hex DC in the stability pool is you're going to get an emission token that's called Flex. All right. And Flex is what is needed to stake for the fees. It's not free to take a loan, just like you can't, like you go to a bank, you're going to pay an interest rate. Well, in here, there's no interest. There's no monthly payment. It's 0%. Okay. But there's a fee that you pay on the front side. That's typically a 0.5% borrowing fee. That ratchets up a little bit based on the health of the system, but typically it's a 0.5% borrowing fee. It's very, very low, but that fee gets shaved off of people's loan essentially, and it goes to the stakers of Flex down in the bottom part. When you stake your Flex tokens down there in the staking portion, you're going to be collecting Hex dollar coins, stable coin, fully redeemable for $1 worth of Hex at any time. That's what keeps its peg. But you're also going to be collecting Hex whenever there's redemptions that are done. Now, this isn't all. A huge percentage of the fees are directly staked into a contract, feeding the core stakers. Okay? The stakers in the core are collecting an enormous amount of these fees. You're welcome to come and stake here directly, okay, for your proportion. But there's a huge proportion that's auto-staked, that's in a contract through a function the community calls. We have no access to it. And those fees will flow to the stakers in our core. So if you have Watt token, if you're familiar with Watt, you can stake your Watt, you get a share, you get an AMP share rate, and you collect all sorts of things while you're over there. You collect Pulse. You collect PulseX, you collect PXDC. Now you're going to be collecting Hex, and you're going to be collecting Hex dollar coin. And it won't end there. There's always going to be more things. Click on collector. There you go. So you can see that the stakers in the core collect PXDC, they collect PulseX. Now Hex dollar coin and Hex. These, it's going to take a second to load. Unless you're connected with a wallet, I don't think these numbers will populate.
Okay.
Right. But that's okay. Scroll down more. And then from our Portal X, there's a Pulse that flows into there. Right. So a large percentage of the fees, more so than any of our other protocols, a large percentage of the fees from Flex protocol will be flowing straight here to the core.
So it's an even bigger incentive to get into the core now, because we have Flex is now feeding. Obviously, we've had Portal X that's been feeding for a while, Earn, and now Flex, and then obviously more coming down the pipe, Amplifier, Pixel Park, and even more dApps that we can't, discuss right now. But there's all these dApps are feeding to the core. So the people who are staking WAT or PLP tokens in the core are getting a cut of all these fees.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, a substantial amount of the staking fees will be going to here, right?
Correct. Scroll up a bit. It looks like, I mean, we just launched. You can see that PXDC, there's already been 86,000 stable coins that have flown over to here. 1.8 billion PulseX. Hex dollar coins, 292 of those so far. I mean, we just launched 30 minutes ago or so. And then after redemptions go live, you'll see Hex start flowing over here as well.
So let's talk about redemptions, because they're going to be switching on in around 2 weeks, right? So for the first 2 weeks, there's no redemptions.
Right. So the thing that keeps a legitimate stablecoin stable is the ability to redeem it for $1 worth of something somewhere. In the form of USDC, you can redeem it for $1 worth of fiat. In the case of DAI, you can actually use the Maker protocol and redeem it for $1 worth of ETH. And in Liquidity, LUSD, you can redeem it for $1 worth of ETH. Liquid loans, USDL, redeem it for $1 worth of Pulse. Earn protocol, you can redeem your PXDC for $1 worth of PulseX. And here, you can redeem your Hex dollar coin for $1 worth of Hex. This ability is turned off for the first 2 weeks to give the protocol time to grow, but that has to turn on at some point. Otherwise, there's no incentive to buy the cheap stablecoin if or when it dumps, right? So you'll see other stablecoins that have either temporarily lost their redemption mechanism, or they've completely broken. And what happens is those stable coins start heading towards zero, right? They go to 98 cents, 95 cents, 85 cents, 75 cents. They just keep going down, because for somebody to be willing to buy those, they have to know that there's an arbitrage event where you can redeem it for $1 worth of something, right? You're not going to buy something for 75 cents just because. I mean, you could with speculation, but the way these stable coins function is you kind of need a guarantee that it's going to go back to $1. And that guarantee is it's guaranteed to be redeemable for $1 worth of something. Anybody who owns HexDC will be able to redeem for $1 worth of Hex. All right. And that comes from the lowest collateralized vaults. People need to understand this concept. Now, if Hex pumps a lot and you've been redeemed against before you realize you were redeemed, and you said, oh, I didn't want to be redeemed, and you try and go buy back some Hex, you're not going to be able to buy back as much. If you were redeemed because you had a vault and you were low collateral health and somebody redeemed and Hex happens to dump, all right, and you say, oh, I wanted that Hex. Well, you can go buy back, and you can buy back way more than you had before because it dumped, right? You have to understand that that is the risk you take when you have a vault. The lowest collateralized vaults are the ones that get redeemed first, and it always goes in order. If redemptions scare you, or if that's something that bothers you, my suggestion is don't be afraid. Just don't take a loan. You could do other things. You could buy some Flex tokens and stake them for the fees and just get free Hex and get free Hex DC just for staking those things. You could park yourself with some Hex dollar coins, some stable coins in the stability pool so that you can get some of those Flex tokens that you can stake for the Hex DC or for the Hex, right? If you're going to take a loan, understand what that means. There's a lot of positives behind it. Remember, 51% of Hex is not staked right now. Those are people that are looking to sell. We'd like to give them another option besides having to sell it. Give them continued use cases to do with that Hex besides just dump it. Okay. And we strongly believe that legitimizing Hex as having more utility than than it currently has is necessary for it to thrive. So that's why we've created this.
It's good that you reiterated that the Hex DC, Hex dollar coin is over collateralized and therefore needs the redemption function like they have obviously on Liquidity, in Earn and Liquid loans. So that function is necessary to keep it at or very close to $1. And we've seen that with Earn working flawlessly. We're going to see that here in the Flex protocol. And like you said, also, if someone really is risk averse, opening a vault isn't the only way to interact with the protocol, right? You can become a stability provider. You can stake in the staking pool. You can stake Flex tokens. You can farm Flex tokens, which we're going to talk about now, if that's okay, because we've got a longer emission period right here over on the LP staking tab.
Yeah. So before I talk about that, I want to touch on something. There are no tokens claimable to the community. None. Okay. Remember, I said that there is a contract that auto claims and stakes a huge percentage of the supply, and it feeds those fees to the core. So instead of just here's a whole bunch of free tokens for you to dump on everybody's head and send the price to zero, okay? There are no tokens available. If you want tokens, you either have to participate by earning them in the stability pool, which means you provided value into the system for a period of time to get some of those, or you have to buy them on the open market. We think that's a very, hopefully, price positive sort of launch. All right. Some people may say, well, how come we don't get to claim? Well, if you are a believer in the core, you do. It's just auto-claimed and staked into a contract that's feeding you those fees. Those tokens are not available to dump. So there's like a huge percentage of the supply that is collecting the fees to the strongest of believers. But those tokens themselves can never be dumped because they're inside of a contract.
All and right. As we just saw, we just launched 30 minutes ago or so, and there's already nearly over 300 or nearly 300, Hex DC already sitting there. So,
yeah. So if you click on if you look at the stats, 500. Look at that, 67 million hex so far. 500, just over $500,000 for the hex in here.
Mm.
Hex DC is 204,000 hex DC minted so far. All right, but to get those flex tokens, you have to provide value into the system. You either have to be in the core and you can collect the fees from them, but you don't get to dump them, or you have to buy them, or you have to be in the stability pool and you can earn some out of there. We think that alleviates like nearly all the sell pressure because there's nothing what's available for people to dump. You have to provide value first. Then you have the right to dump later.
And, the core, like we've talked about, is the main place where all the fees and all the dApps are going. And this is just a huge, should we say, Christmas stocking gift, early Christmas gift that's come early.
Yeah, so we wanted this to be a stealth launch. We thought it would have the biggest impact in the community if it was just surprise. Here you go. People have been asking for this for a long time. We've kicked the can around quite a bit, pondering if this was the right choice or not. And after meeting with some people who have really done deep dives into Hex and the OA and the various wallet staking behaviors and stuff, and realizing that over half of the supply is just never staked from the community. Half of the supply is just people speculating. And looking at the liquidity pools paired back to Pulse, this is just as viable as PulseX is. We've done it for PulseX. In fact, this might be better. There's so many people looking at Hex to make a recovery, to have other use cases. people love to stake it and get more of it, but what else can you do with it? Well, now you can take a loan against it and you can do other things with it. So we thought this was kind of essential to the ecosystem.
Well, it's the next step in DeFi, isn't it? Just waiting for number go up. I mean, as we've seen recently, again in the last couple of days, and especially today, we've seen number go down, if anything, right? Across Bitcoin, Ethereum, the rest of crypto, and the Pulse chain ecosystem. So the next step is being able to borrow against your crypto assets. And we have that now for Ethereum. We have it for PLS, PLSX, and now Hex. And we know there's a lot of Hex holders out there. Like we said, over 51% of Hex is not staked. So people can still hold on to their Hex, especially if they collateralize safely. Obviously, it's up to everyone. Everyone's a big girl and a big guy. They can do what they want. But you can still hold on to your Hex, get liquidity, and then do as you please. There's so many options, right, to do stability providing, staking, liquidity providing, and what's not. But let's get into these missions.
Yeah, so they run for 369 days, which is like, that's a long time, right? You don't want the emissions to run out, like kind of like they did over in Earn Protocol. They're they're coming to an end. And then what happens? People withdraw their liquidity and there's no liquidity pool. So there's other things we did with Earn to kind of keep that going. We made a pool, a 5 stablecoin pool over in PHUX, and that'll just run forever. Right. So that's very helpful. But like, it's very important that your incentives are not cut short, right? You don't want everybody to just start using the protocol and then all of a sudden nobody's getting anything for free in the stability pool, so they all withdraw, and then there's no liquidity. You also don't want the team to manage all the liquidity. I see this all the time, by the way. You see all these tokens launching. Sometimes they're shit coins and memes, and sometimes they're good protocols. But often you see that the team manages 100% of the liquidity. All right. And that normally goes very badly, right? Because you have like one entity, as people are buying and the price goes up, that entity gets tempted. And then they go, oh, wow, look at all this pulse that's been put in here, millions and millions of dollars. And they rug it, right? You want to eliminate that risk as much as possible. And the only way to do that is to get the community to provide liquidity themselves. You want hundreds or thousands of people providing liquidity. You want just tons of people. You don't want one person. You don't want 5 people, 10 people. You want thousands of people. And the only way you can do that is to incentivize them to do so, right? So you emit out a token such as Flex token, which they can stake for fees and Hex and HexDC. And you make it very long. You make it for like a year or so, which gives enough time for these pools to grow, mature, gain some hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars spread across thousands of people who are in there. And then that also gives a good solid year for other protocols such as PHUX or 9MM or whatever to start building up their liquidity pools. Then you completely eliminated that risk of, oh, wow, there's one guy who can just rug the whole thing. You don't want that. Right. So incentivized liquidity pools is very essential to DeFi.
So just to reiterate, if someone wanted to become an LP and capitalize on this, we've got these shortcuts here, right, in the utilities. So we could go over to PulseX here, right, by clicking on one of these.
Yep,
that'll take us through to PulseX, and we can add liquidity for HexDC and HexPair or Flex and HexPair. Then, excuse me, once we get those PLP tokens, we take them back to the LP staking part and stake them here, right?
And just stake them. Yep. And then you'll see you'll have a claimable balance that you can claim at any time, a claimable without having to withdraw liquidity. Your number of Flex tokens just continuously goes up. Right now, you see the yield, by the way, 786% for that first pool, HexDC Hex. It's much, much higher for Flex Hex. So scroll down. What's going on? How come it's not showing the yield. It was a minute ago. You might have to refresh.
Okay. Maybe there's a glitch. Okay, here we go.
There it is. All right. Oh wow, 33,354%. Now, why might that be? Like I told you, where's the supply? You got to buy it, or you got to earn it. So that yield is quite good to those who participate, which is another anti-dump mechanism. Because if you're earning your flex tokens from the stability pool, for example, you say, "Oh, I just want to dump these," but oh wait, there's a 33,000% yield that I can get if I just stake them over. I liquidity provide with them, right? So you gotta bring value into the system, and then the system will also give you value back, right?
Awesome. So let's say I've come in here, I've minted myself some Hex DC, and I want to get that Hex DC into US dollars in my bank account. How would I do that?
You swap it.
Yep.
Right. So Hex DC is not on Coinbase, right? So all you got to do, you can very easily simply swap it for something else.
Like USDC bridged in from Ethereum, right?
Yep. And then send that to Coinbase, right? Let these liquidity pools build themselves up. All right. If you try to do this on day one, you're going to eat some slippage, right?
Sure.
But as these liquidity pools get deeper and deeper, places like Portal X and Pateus and such will kind of auto route your trades for you and get you the best rate possible. And you'll be able to swap out of, 20, 30, 50,000 Hex DC into 49,950 or whatever USDC. And then you just bridge that over, send it to Coinbase, and you go on your way. Right. But not on day one. Give these pools time to grow a little bit, or even participate in these pools. And just like you've seen with Earn Protocol, everything's functioning as intended, it's functioning smooth. We suspect the same to be happening here with these pools.
And how about HexDC maybe being added to something like the Bridge and Oracle stable pool? Is that a possibility in the future?
It can't be added to that pool, but a new pool can be and likely will be created. We've kept this a stealth launch, so we haven't even started those discussions with that team yet.
Sure.
But for sure, anybody can create a pool. So yes, you will see a pool of stables that includes HexDC.
So the bottom line is multiple ways, to make DeFi yield, not only in the protocol itself, but like you said, liquidity providing on PulseX, and then bringing the tokens back here, or possible other pools that are going to pop up. So, I mean, you're a self-professed stablecoin maxi, right? You like to.
I'm not self-professed. I don't say that. Well, I do say I'm a maxi. Yes, other people say other things about me, but I like
stable coins.
I do like stable coins because the number with the good ones can't go down, right? With the bad ones, sure, like the Lunas, you're in one of those, and it's not over collateralized and not redeemable. It's going to go down, right? It's just a matter of time. But in the good stables that are fully redeemable, the number stays steady, which means that when you stake those things in places like Curve or Convex or PHUX, or in the Flex stability pool or the Earn stability pool or Liquid Loan stability pool, if you place your stable coins in there, you are literally getting free things. And then you can turn those free things into the other things that you like. So if you like to buy meme coins, or you like to buy more Hex, or you like to buy this or that, you have a constant supply of money to DCA into those things, and you don't even have to reach into your own pockets to do it, because you're earning those rewards and you're just turning those rewards into the other stuff that you like. So I like stable coins because your number stays the same, but then you turn your rewards into the other things you like and the number goes up.
So I think we talked about this on a stream before, but you're getting the best of both worlds, right? Because you have your stable coin yield, and then you can also I think you said this before, with whatever you earn, why not use that to go and speculate on other stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Now, for people who don't have any exposure already to things, like somebody who's brand new to Pulse Chain who would like to get their hands on some, maybe that's not the best play. Right? Maybe there's people you want them to come over and dump a few $1,000 into Pulse so they have some exposure. But for people who are already heavily exposed, but you still want to accumulate, you still want to DCA, so to speak, you can use stablecoins extremely effectively to take the yield and DCA into the things that you like.
So, I mean, like you said, you've got them, people who are just holding stable coins in their wallet, they're just gathering dust or nothing, right? Or if anything, inflation's eating them away. But if you've got them working for you, whether that's in the stability pool or PHUX pool or something like that, you're retaining the value. You don't have to worry about waking up tomorrow and 30% or 70%, as long as it's a good stable coin, of the value going down. Plus, you're getting that yield, and then you can do as you please with that. So I'd say it's quite a smart DeFi play. So let's also talk about, we've touched on obviously how to open a vault, stability pool, and the staking pool. Obviously, the staking pool is where people get the fees. So people stake the Flex token here, right? And they get the fees every time somebody either opens a vault or someone redeems, which will be live in 2 weeks, right?
Correct. Yep. Anytime somebody opens a vault, Hex DC goes to the stakers. Anytime somebody does a redemption, Hex goes to the stakers.
Awesome. So similar to the Earn protocol where we see PLS, PulseX or PXDC, here we're seeing HexDC and Hex.
Yes.
So why are we having, just compared to that, just to reiterate again, for the LP staking, we're getting up to a year for that, right? 365 days?
369.
Sorry, 369 days. Okay, 369.
369. If you all caught that, so that's a Hex thing.
369. Inflation every year of the old Hex supply. So already we're looking at nearly 92.6 million Hex locked up already in TVL. That borrowing fee is only 0.5%, which is nice. How does that move around? Sometimes it goes up.
It's based on the volume of redemptions. And redemptions aren't live right now, so the borrowing fee is just going to stay at 0.5%. Okay. But when there's tons and tons of redemptions happening, the redemption fee ratchets up, but it's the same as the borrowing fee. They ratchet up together to slow down, to kind of dampen the system a little bit. All right, give it time to recover, because obviously there's some sort of price movement or something that's happening that's causing a high volume of redemptions. So when that fee ratchets up, you can wait. You might want to wait to take a loan, for example.
Yeah, but it goes up to as high as 5%, but it will mainly be around 0.5% or 1% with the system being healthy.
Yeah, we used to say 5%, but it technically it's possible to just keep ratcheting it up even higher and higher. But like if somebody comes in like a whale and tries to redeem millions and millions of dollars, he's going to eat himself alive with like a redemption fee of like 50, 60, 70%. And it's just going to take all his value and give it right back to the stakers in this protocol. He loses all his money, goes to the stakers. And that's like that whole mechanism is designed like as an anti-whale manipulation sort of thing. So the stakers will collect all his money because he was an idiot and tried to do too big of a redemption.
Well, let's talk about redemptions actually, because obviously we need them. We've talked about this already. We need them to keep HexDC at or close to $1, but it isn't the only way, right? We've seen on Pateus with PXDC that you can actually sometimes get more bang for your buck, right, by swapping on a DEX aggregator like that.
Yeah, it's not the only way. So just the fact that it is redeemable is enough that people will maintain it at $1 somewhere else. So if you can pick up let's say $1 1.07 stable coins for one of a different stable coin, you're up 7%, right? So there's stable coin swapping that occurs between USDC, DAI, USDT, USDL, PXDC, and then soon HEXDC. There's stable coin swapping that occurs back and forth, just buying more of one stable coin with less of another. People do that. Balancer system is kind of designed to keep all that in balance. That's kind of the whole point of the PHUX stablecoin pools. So these things happen on their own, but they only happen because people know, as a last resort, it's no matter what, it's still redeemable for $1's worth of its underlying collateral somewhere else.
But I'd say, like, if you do want to redeem, do come in here and check the rate, but then also hop over to a DEX aggregator like Pateas to see what the rate,
right?
Because you might get more hex for your HEXDC over there. It's not always the best rate inside there, but obviously you can do it. The option's up to you, but obviously you want to get the biggest. You know, whenever you're swapping or using a DEX or whatever, you want to get the most for your money, right? So there's multiple options. So I think the takeaways from today are the Flex protocol is live, where anyone can use their liquid hex as collateral and now mint themselves some HEXDC. We've got 369 days for farming the Flex token by bringing your LP tokens in here. And also a huge amount of the fees is going to the core, right? We've got a big chunk of that's going to the core. So core stakers benefit too from this protocol big time.
Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome, man. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap it up?
That's it for today. It's been a really long night and then into today. These things are never quick. There's tons of different connections you got to do to make things work the way you want them to. This is fully audited. It's been tested. It's been tested at the yin yang, and people have been begging for it. And here it is. Enjoy it, and it won't be the last time we talk about it.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll have another chat probably next week and talk more about how it's doing and check up the stats and what's not. Thanks, Jesse.
Cool. Thank you.
So guys, below you'll find the link to the Flex protocol. Check it out. You can now use your hex as collateral, mint yourself some HEXDC, and do what you please. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.